Aman, Ria, and Kabir were three teenagers who walked into their local woods at sunset to laugh off a local ghost story. In a typical horror story, the rules of survival are simple. If you can outrun the threat and make it back to civilization, you win. But with the Faceless Watcher, that rule is a trap. For this predator, allowing the prey to physically leave the forest is a deliberate step in its hunting process. The entity does not prioritize hunting physical bodies in the brush. It targets the mind, which makes the act of physical escape a curated illusion. To understand the actual threat, we have to look past the ghost story and analyze the entity's behavior as a clinical predator. This framework, the pathology of the curse, shows an escalating three-phase hunting strategy. Phase 1 targets the physical environment, Phase 2 targets the senses, and Phase 3 targets the mind itself. Mapping the transition through these three phases reveals how the hunt moves from the physical world into a structured internal process. As the trio walks deeper into the trees and the setting sun completely disappears, Phase 1 initiates. This phase is defined by environmental isolation. All natural sounds, the birds, the insects, abruptly stop, leaving the woods in total silence. This sudden vacuum of sound acts as a form of sensory deprivation. Without natural auditory cues, the group's anxiety levels spike, leading to immediate disorientation. This silence is a tactical maneuver. It severs the prey from the safety of the natural world and boxes them into the entity's territory. Then the entity reveals itself, an impossibly tall, faceless figure in a black suit, with unnatural, tentacle-like appendages moving behind it. This marks the start of Phase 2, sensory abduction. Before it even touches them, the entity attacks the group's internal senses using phantom static and invasive whispers that echo inside their heads. The trio runs blindly through the forest, their breath heavy and hearts pounding as they experience total sensory overload. This chaos is engineered to force a physical mistake. That mistake occurs when Kabir trips and falls. Aman turns back to help, but finds himself unable to move. Locking eyes with the faceless figure induces a state of complete paralysis. In an instant, Kabir is gone. There is no sound, no sign of struggle, and no trace left on the forest floor. Phase 2 uses sensory overload to immobilize the group, allowing the entity to abduct a target without leaving behind a shred of physical evidence. Aman and Ria eventually escape the woods and reach civilization, believing the encounter is over. But the hunt has simply entered Phase 3, psychological infection. The entity no longer needs to follow them physically. It has attached itself to their trauma. Back in the safety of her home, Ria stops speaking. She remains stationary for hours at a time, her focus narrowing until she is capable of only one repetitive action. She fills notebooks with the same image, the tall, faceless figure, drawn over and over again. Aman's state also deteriorates. He begins seeing the figure in his own reflection and catching glimpses of it in the peripheral shadows of his room. The physical boundary of the forest was meaningless. The entity used the survivor's own trauma as a beacon to bring the haunting into their private lives. Weeks after the encounter, Aman vanishes from his bedroom. There are no signs of a struggle and no evidence of forced entry. Only one thing is left behind, a drawing of the Slender Man standing directly behind him. Aman failed to escape the threat because a psychological infection cannot be locked out by doors or walls. The forest provides the initial point of contact, but the entity uses the mind as its primary hunting ground. In the realm of the Faceless Watcher, to notice the figure is to invite it in. Once the hunt moves inside the mind, there is no true escape. Subscribe channel for such video, like, comment, and share the video.